I disappeared without a single word after I saw the truth about my wife. But 2 years later, she found my mountain hideaway. My name is Marcus. I'm 42. For 15 years, my world was industrial supply chains and highway miles, selling parts to factories across 3 states. It was a life of motels and spreadsheets, but it built a stable foundation. Then, in 2014, I met Elena at a corporate mixer in Indianapolis. She was a single mom of 2, radiating a resilient kind of grace that pulled me right in. Her daughter, Sophie, was 4, a tiny ball of sunshine. Her son, Jake, was 12, a storm cloud with wary eyes. We built a life fast. Married within the year. I gave them everything, coaching t-ball, helping with homework, fixing up the backyard. For a while, it was the dream I never knew I wanted. But cracks appeared slowly, like frost on a window. Her marketing director role began consuming nights and weekends. Sudden trips. Texts answered hours later with thin excuses. Our connection, once so warm, turned brittle and cold. The distance wasn't just emotional, it was a chasm I couldn't bridge. Sophie, just 7, would curl into my side and whisper, "Why is mommy always at work?" I had no real answer. Jake, meanwhile, met my every attempt with a teenager's contempt. "You're not my dad," he'd sneer, a phrase that became his weapon. Elena never corrected him. She'd just sigh and tell me to be more understanding. The man I saw in the mirror started becoming a stranger, pouring love into a vessel with a hidden leak. Then came the Monday I was supposed to be in St. Louis. A gut feeling, that primal alarm, made me cancel. I told the client a family issue came up. I parked down the street from our home and waited. Her car left at 10 a.m. It didn't go downtown. It went to a boutique hotel near the interstate. What I saw in that parking lot dismantled my reality in 60 seconds. A man in a tailored suit stepped from a black Mercedes. Their embrace wasn't friendly. It was a confession. The long kiss that followed was my sentence. I watched them walk inside, my hands frozen on the steering wheel. I didn't confront them. In that moment of seismic betrayal, a strange calm settled over me. The fight was gone. All that remained was a single, clear directive: leave. But a clean exit required proof. I became a ghost in my own home. While playing the dutiful husband, I quietly investigated. Our joint savings had been bleeding out, $52,000 funneled to an unknown account over 18 months. Then, one morning, her unlocked laptop showed me the story in her own words. Emails. 2 years of them. To a man named Robert. They detailed hotel dates, future plans, and worse, her candid thoughts about me. "Marcus is a good provider," she wrote, "but he's more of a convenient habit than a husband." I read those words at my own kitchen island, feeling the floor give way. She wrote about my travel schedule like it was a lucky break for her affair. The shower turned off upstairs. I forwarded the evidence to a secure drive and closed the browser, my heart a block of ice. The next day, I executed my plan. A single duffel bag. Essential documents. I withdrew exactly half of what remained in our accounts. I left no forwarding address, just a note on the granite countertop next to my wedding band. "Elena, I know about Robert. I know about the money. Do not contact me. My lawyer will be in touch. Marcus." I drove until the city lights vanished, replaced by the dark, rolling shapes of the Appalachian foothills. But his voice was urgent. He told me a story he'd buried for 30 years, a first marriage, stepchildren he loved, a wife who betrayed him. "I left to save myself," he said, his voice rough. It felt like failure then. Now I know it was survival. His revelation was an anchor. My inheritance wasn't a weakness, it was the clarity to walk away from a sinking ship. Life in the mountains began to reshape me. I met a park ranger named Leah while hiking, a woman with her own history of quiet escape. We became friends, then something more tentative and real. I bought a secluded piece of land with a crumbling cottage and started rebuilding it with my own hands. This was my renaissance, hammer and nail. The divorce finalized cleanly, thanks to the evidence. I let her keep the house. I wanted no relics of that life. Just as true peace began to feel possible, a car kicked up gravel on my new driveway. It was Elena. She looked diminished, desperate. Robert had left her when she got pregnant. She'd lost her job. The house was doomed to foreclosure. "I've made a terrible mistake," she pleaded, tears streaking her makeup. "The kids need you. I need you." She mentioned Sophie's tears, trying to hook my heart. But the hook had dulled. I looked at this woman who had been my entire world and felt nothing but a distant pity. "Your consequences are not my refuge," I told her, my voice even. "You ended us 2 years ago. I just made it official. You need to leave." The anger flashed in her eyes then. "You just ran away. You're a coward." I finally replied, "No. Staying would have been cowardice. Leaving was my first brave act in years." She left, her defeat hanging in the mountain air. Time flowed. My new home became a sanctuary. Leah moved in. We got engaged under a blanket of stars, with no one but the owls as witnesses. Then, a letter forwarded from my old life. A childish script from Sophie, now 10. She tracked down my address with her grandma's help. We exchanged a few careful letters. I couldn't be her dad, but I could be a memory of kindness. The final ghost arrived last fall. Jake, now 19, found me at the local hardware store. The anger was gone, replaced by a weary shame. "I'm sorry," he mumbled, scuffing his boot. "For all of it. I was protecting her, and I was wrong." We talked for 10 minutes. He was living with his bio dad now, seeing the contrast clearly. I accepted his apology, not for him, but for me. Some knots simply loosen with time. So, why am I telling you this story? Not for sympathy. I'm telling you because sometimes walking away isn't surrender. It's strategic retreat. It's reclaiming your soul from a war you never agreed to fight. The path through betrayal is yours alone to map. My map led here, to these mountains, to this peace. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever had to make an impossible choice to preserve yourself, then do me a solid, hit that like button. It helps more than you know. And for more stories about reclaiming your life from the shadows, make sure you're subscribed to Eternal Revenge.